What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Master Crafted. We are here after both having our own weekend GT experiences and going and playing some damn good 40K and having a lot of fun. Phil, how you doing? How was your weekend?
It was good. Played a GT, got back in the swing of singles. We had a couple games in a row, and it was nice. And so I went out to the Lone Star Open. It was a 335 player GT, so a great tournament with great players from all over the country. Yeah, and it was good.
Hell yeah, that sounds great. I myself played in our local Denver GT. It was repping about 82 players. Our first real 11th edition GT so far in this area. So super fun, and got to go see all the homies. The original crew. So was a good time. And I think, Phil, we'll start with the old Denver 40K Fight Club, and we'll talk about just how trash Guard is. Right? That's what everybody wants to hear. just how bad Guard is and how bad I did with him. And I did aggressively mediocre, I would say. I set out to go 4-2. This was my first real outing in 11th. I've played a handful of games, just kind of get used to the addition. So this is my first real tournament. And so we'll go ahead and look at that list. Spoilers, I got 9th place and I went 4-2. So I met my goal and I learned some things and definitely have some changes I'll be making. But to go over the list, to start with, playing Grizzled Company, because you need access to Ignore's cover, in my opinion. So Grizzled is just one of our best detachments as an option. And then for 2, it also plays priority assets, which is currently one of the better detachment or dispositions for Guard as a whole. And just in general, it's very good. But anyway, what I took, a Commissar with Abhuman Detail allows him to give orders to Ogren and Bulgrin units. You can attach it. I didn't. I had it attached to my Cadian command squad and a unit of Cadian shock troops to just kind of have the command blob running around, an annoying grievous blow target that people never get to go kill, which is very nice. And then that allows me to, by having it all connected, project those orders out to my Ogren and Bulgrin at 24-inch range. So that's pretty handy. Gaunt's Ghosts. For some up down, a little bit of backline screening that can safely stand in some of those corners that me and Phil have talked a little bit about in some of our videos already, that are just kind of really awkward to screen with normal units because it's just kind of in the open. And you got to protect your edges. So they were super handy for that, super handy for scoring. Got to have at least 2 Dorns. So we'll just go on down. 2 Dorn commanders and a Tech Priest Engine Seer. I had 45 points left over, and in a game where you don't have -1 to AP for cover anymore, making sure that I can give a 4-up invuln is fairly important in some of those matchups particularly. And if not, I just have an extra scoring piece. I can go just do an action, press the button, and that's pretty nice. And then I had 15 ponies, two units, 110, 1-5, followed by 2 units of Bulgrin, 2x6, 1 Hellhound, an Exterminator, 2x3 Ogren, and a unit of Ratlings. So 4 different Ogren and Bulgrin units to keep ordered at any given time. The nice thing about Grizzled as well is that extra order you get, you are able to give out 2 of those orders per turn. And then also at the start of any phase, you can spend a CP and give an additional order. So you can just kind of keep spamming orders as needed. The only orders you can give to those units are +1 to hit in melee and +1 OC in leadership with the Commissar. So you really are kind of limited. The nice thing with Grizzled is if you are an ordered unit, you reroll once to hit, regardless of what phase it is. It's just pretty nice and what order you have. So some added just built-in efficiency. So that's just the list. I guess, Phil, any questions, anything so far before we talk about kind of just how the weekend went?
Yeah, obviously, Guard has gotten some significant heat in the past couple weeks in the beginning of the edition. But you were playing party assets because Grizzled is a 3DP, and that's the only one you have access to. How do you think Guard played priority comparatively to other armies that you've seen in the meta so far?
I felt like, for the most part, it was very easy to play the mission. The harder part was trying to play against my opponent, and it was very dependent on what they had. My hardest games were against take and hold armies because take and hold, I feel like, has a very, very low bar. Because of the way guardsmen are priced, it feels very, very bad to like really spam a lot of those units at 75 points. So that was what I had the biggest struggle with. Reflectively, I think even though they are more expensive, I think I would find room in my list to potentially take one or two more even guard units, because that's the biggest struggle for me that I've noticed. Purge guard plays just fine into. We have Bulgrin. People have to overcommit to them, and it feels awful. Like you just make your frontline Bulgrin. People hate it, and then you just hit them back. I it honestly felt fairly simple the couple of games I had into it. Priority on the mirror, when I played into Dark Angels round 4, we just have more trash than they do to be able to just kind of like, if you can kill other things trash more effectively in the sabotage mission, you can afford to keep doing the action when others can't. And I think just keeping that in mind, I felt like Guard does a very, very good job of picking up other people's trash and then just still having some left over to be able to win the game on the scoring side of things. I didn't play Disruption. I did not play Recon. I only played those three. But my take and hold games, my last 2 rounds were into take and hold. And I felt like it was so much harder to stop them from scoring because my list specifically, and just how Guard plays in general, it feels a lot harder to just throw OC at people. But I think I sacrificed too much of that ability in this list, and I'm going to look to add it back in.
Yeah, definitely interesting. You've now gotten 6 games at, I would say, a relatively competitive GT. Are people's hatred of guard or value of guard at the moment, is that too low, genuinely?
Honestly, I felt just fine about all of my matchups until the last 2 rounds. They were 2 things I did not want to see. Playing into Scout across the board orcs is not something that Guard really wants to see. And because of the changes I felt like I needed to make, I felt like I could kind of do some things, but it's just orcs are way too cheap, and there's not much most armies can do. I think there's maybe 3 armies at all that orcs even care about playing right now, so I'm kind of like, that was just whatever. But in general, I think Guard plays just fine. My first 4 games, I played into some solid armies. I played into double Catan, Wraith, Necrons, and was able to handle that just fine around 1. Blood Angels with some melee pressure did that just fine. And then like Retcad, Tau, which is uber killy, super, super good. As long as you as a guard player know how to screen and zone correctly to deny those deep strikes, the boards are heavy enough that you really can just kind of make it impossible and wait until turn 3 when everything has to be on the board. And you just still score so many points in 11th edition with such a low bar. Like, you don't have to be wasting units here and there as much in 11th if you need to just kind of castle and turtle and say, well, you only have melee threats to come get me and dig me out, so I'll just hide and zone, and there's not much you can do about it. And that was kind of my game against Tau. Like, I honestly think Guard is fine. I think my list was honestly below average. There's like 300 points I'm going to change that I felt like just really wasn't uber efficient. At least 200 of it, and then the rest is just going to be whatever makes to the last 100 work. But yeah, I think Guard is just fine. I really didn't have a problem with my games this weekend. I'm not God's gift to Guard. I'm an above average Guard player, and that's it. And honestly, even a lot of those other top tables, I was just like, if I didn't get the couple of matchups, I would have felt like I had a reasonable game into those armies. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think the Guard hate is as justified. There's some love I would like to be given Guard's way, but honestly, my goal was to go 4-2, and I did not find it extremely difficult or even like moderately like hard. I thought it was a reasonable weekend with tough competition, and I was able to go 4-2 with an army that still just does what 12 Bulgrin and a couple Dorns will always do. So
Great. Okay. Absolutely. Are there any significant moments throughout the tournament that you want to go in? We could talk about each matchup, or we could talk about some significant things, because obviously priority assets is one of the stronger dispositions, if not the strongest right now. Is there anything you want to break down in any of these matchups?
I think one of the biggest things, I mean, I've already kind of covered the Purge matchup, right? If you see things, or if you're playing against somebody who has to go kill you, have tough things to kill in your list, right? Like, that base is covered, and I think that's kind of the thing I'm tweaking now as I move forward, is, as I mentioned earlier, right, needing more guardsmen to play into take and hold better. It's more of those things. I think I felt just fine in my games. I'm trying to think of any specific matchups in particular that I mean, I kind of already mentioned the priority v priority. Just kill their trash, you'll have more of it. any particular moments. I think the biggest thing from this weekend that I went into that I think is something guard players need to just start doing is just leave major resources off the table unless it's something that can just absolutely run you down. I played against orcs. I left everything on the table and it still just didn't matter. They were just in my deployment zone turn 2 and there was like nothing I could do about it. But in general, I kept the 10 Rough Riders and a Dorn commander off the board and making people have to worry about where those could come in and leaving my own, like myself flexible, I felt like actually was a really, really big part of my game plan. And I found it super, super useful because it's just so easy to show up on the edge of the board and see a lot of things, or even rapid a tank and then just go push and tow into some terrain piece to see something if people aren't careful, because of how just towing in is towering now, equivalent for line of sight. So I found that to be like the biggest change I've made as a guard player from 10th to 11th, is just leaving off some major assets to come in, and that's what I'm trying to work on in my list, is like making sure I still have at least one, if not two, assets that I can leave off the board and be like, if this comes in the wrong spot for you, it's going to hurt. So making people have to keep spending resources to screen you as the guard player who used to be the army that really just like took the board and did a lot of screening yourself, I think is an adjustment that people definitely need to be looking to make.
Okay. Yeah, those are some really interesting thoughts. So we'll just break it down real quick. Obviously, your last two losses were into orcs and chaos demons, both things that I think, well, the demons especially, another Dorn would have been helpful into for sure, based on previous testing and stuff like that. Like, that is definitely something that the Dorns are good at killing. It was a Plague Legion list, which, there's some very interesting lists that I think overall are going to continue to affect the game in 11th edition, especially here at the beginning, because Battle Shock is so pervasive. It's Plague Legion and Warp Tide. Epidemius, who I've not seen in a minute, riding his giant slug. 10 Plague Bearers. Poxbringer with 10 Plague Bearers. Sloppity with 10 Plague Bearers. Another Poxbringer with 10 Plague Bearers. A double Great Unclean one, Erotigus. Sloppity solo. 6 Mana Nurglings. Fleshhounds for the up-down. 2 Scale Cannons, which also will trigger Battle Shock after they hit you. We got a little bit of everyone except for Slanesh. Apparently, they are not good enough to join this amalgamation of demons. But yeah, it is leaning very heavily into a Battle Shock sphere, and definitely interesting there. That orc list is something that we're seeing all over the place. Unfortunately, Equatorial Horde is obnoxious, and pretty much this list you're seeing everywhere. Gaz, Pain Boy and Boys, a Big Boss, Pain Boy and Boys, War Boss, Pain Boy and Boys, Banner Knob with Flash Gits, Zagrod, Gretchen, Wazdaka, who you might as well just pay the 175. He's going in every list. Truck, 2 Gretchens, and the Commandos. Those Commandos are so important for this list currently because they need to win the infiltrate role so they can protect all their scout moves and then move up with this entire army. And then now they're advancing and charging very easily, walling turn 1, surviving, and then killing the rest of your army. And then they obviously end the game scoring incredibly well.
Yeah. Taking hold is great when you can jam 100 bodies into somebody's face, basically. It's a solid game plan. If you have not tried it as an orc player, you really should. Mason played it really well. Being able to, as Phil was just saying, scout ahead 6 inches with 3 boys units and Zogrod as well. Even though I was able to put down my rattlings to kind of try to protect my natural, it didn't matter. I deployed 8 inches away from his deployment zone to try to just like kind of make a wall and stuff, but only being able to spread 9 inches wide, I only really stopped about half of the board. And because of the second unit of Storm Boys, I had to show my hand because Mason got to go first. I had to put my other ones there with two Storm Boy units. If I don't do that, then both Storm Boys drop. I can't deny scout anywhere. And even trying to funnel them and do some combat tricks, I don't eat through them enough. I thought the horses would honestly be a little bit handier with the frag tips with Lance and stuff, but it's still just you're wounded on 4s even with Lance, and it's just not enough attacks. And so putting all those points towards another Dorn or anything of value is definitely something I'm gonna look into. I'm also considering just saying screw it, I'm gonna run 18 Bulgrin. So that's never off the table because Bulgrin don't do bad. 7-1-2 into Pain Boy units. You still generally, if it goes through, the Feel No Pain doesn't save them. And then honestly, the Ogren for 60 points, I was nothing but pleased with the Ogren this weekend. You can't expect a ton out of them. If anything has cover, you're not going to pay to strip it and stuff, but in general, they traded super well. If you can get within the 18 shots hitting on fours, and then 12 attacks at 611 in combat with reroll ones on both sides, hitting on twos in melee, like they traded trash almost as effectively as any of the ponies units. So, and they are tougher to kill being T6. So I think that's one of those things that I'm definitely going to be looking to include more often because it's hard to find good 60-point units that can kind of play both phases for us. So
yeah, really, really interesting. Okay, any final thoughts on guard on the GT?
no, I'm pretty pleased with it. I mean, we could deep dive games, but I think it's better to just talk about our takeaways, what we learned. At least on my side, people don't need to hear me ramble about guard. Now, you, Mister Deathwatch, people might want to hear about some of your games. You had some fairly interesting games against some fairly interesting lists, so we'll probably deep dive those a little bit more. So let's go ahead and start on that. What were you bringing this weekend?
Yes, for those that watched our video, we did a little breakdown on what I was running. We'll go through that again. We got all guns, no breaks. We have Deathwatch, Black Spears Task Force, because that just got moved to Purge the Foe from priority assets. We got a Captain and Gravis with Indom, Lieutenant and Phobos with Incursors, Captain with Jump Pack and Talon Strike, Lieutenant with Combi, a 10-man of Indom's Solo, 2 Land Speeders, a Hammer Strike for Strip Cover, Thunder Strike for +1 to wound against monsters and vehicles, and then a Talon Strike with 5 plasmas on its own. So, leaning very heavily into what we're trying to do best, which is kill Xenos. And in my mind, trying to prepare the best way possible for having to play Orcs at some point. So, guess what I didn't play this weekend? I played 0 Orcs. So that was slightly disappointing because I played a bunch of games into Orcs and was feeling relatively prepared into that matchup, and I did not get to play them one time. So, yeah, is what it is. We also finished 4-2. Both Lane and I were undefeated day one, which was nice. And I had 2 tough games and the 2 great players. I mean, I'll talk about their list in a second. But the list as a whole functioned as it should. Purge is very good. I have ways to kill multiple assets a turn. I am looking for a go turn. Like, Purge, Deathwatch in general are looking for that. But Purge specifically is looking for, hey, I just need to all in you. I need to wipe you off the board, especially into the priority assets matchup, because I can't score like priority asset scores, like priority assets in a Purge. So I'm looking for my main opportunity to like all in my opponent so I can actually like score and win the game. Because otherwise I can't play like a tic-tac game with my specific list. Yeah. So let's see here. Pull that up one more time. Any questions, Lane? Any questions on the list? Any questions on what we had going on?
No, I think that's a pretty good review. We talked a lot about what you were bringing and why in our previous video. So I think if people need a more in depth on the list, they can go there. If not, let's dive into some games.
Yeah. All right. So first up, priority assets. We're facing an obnoxious, pretty close to max Terminator list with Shield Host and Hammerblow running priority assets, which is something I was expecting to see a lot of, and unfortunately I did. Lone Star opened to something really interesting where they had all day one as layout A. So that meant that for me, looking at that, unfortunately it meant that for my opponents, realistically, that we were on Dawn of War for Purge and a priority. That is not awesome for a lot of priority lists, and it's pretty awesome for an army that can literally flip the board, like, because they feel like it. And it's very hard to pin down an army like that, and it's very hard to screen your backfield. It's very hard to, play the game and play aggressively if the whole time all you're doing is trying to chase down, Gravis, and the Gravis are not staying where they should. They're just getting picked up every turn. So this game came down to a turn 1 deep strike, where if you notice on here, my opponent is running axes. There's custodians. So on the guard, he's got 2 units of axes and 1 3-mana spears. The problem with axes, and I love them, I do, is they're -1 AP. And that means AOC is pretty good into them. Now, I knew that I needed an all-in turn to make sure my opponent, I forced them into a position where I could kill a bunch of custodians, because I do have a lot of flat 3 damage. My plasmas are flat 3, which is nice. It means it's killing custodian guards pretty effectively. All my My bolters are flat 2. So, like, that bolter squad with Talon Strike, I can make a hit on 2s. I can have Twin Linked. And most importantly, the strat we talked about previously was anti-infantry 2-up. I can pick up, really tough Terminators, force them on their involves, and give you so many saves that it's going to be hard. So he has a way to deep strike turn 1, which is the shield captain. That enhancement allows him to deep strike turn 1. My scouts were protecting my Talon Strike unit, and he came up and allowed me to reactive with the Combi Weapon Lieutenant. And all I did was move the Combi Weapon Lieutenant. I'll pull it up here. I had the Combi Lieutenant like right here. I moved the Combi Lieutenant this way because my big Talon Strike unit was in this pocket waiting. And I knew if he saw the opportunity, he would try to deep strike turn 1 and go after this unit. The problem is, even with all the attacks, even with, obviously a very good damage profile, if I AOC'd, he'd kill 4 of them, 5 of them. And that's just the JPI dead at that point. I still have what I actually want, which is all the Inceptors. So he did do that. He made the charge. To his credit, I think he made every 9-inch charge that he was put in position to do. It did not matter. My first opponent, Adrian, he was making 9-inch charges like from everywhere. 10-inch charges, didn't matter. No reroll, he didn't need it. All his Terminators were getting in. It did force me in a position where I was really relying on my lethality to pick up a lot of stuff. So, but because I was able to kind of start in overdrive, picking up a full Terminator unit for free, it puts him in a really tough position.
Yeah, I know we've talked a little bit. I'm probably going to be playing some Custodes in the near future for a teams event to fill in a disposition. And yeah, it's so nice, the sounds of damage 3, but AP1 is just a death sentence when it comes to actual damage output. It doesn't matter. If it takes 2 spear strikes to kill something, I'd rather it take 2 than kill nothing with axes.
Yeah. Yep, AOC is still a thing. You still got to be prepared. It was tough. Adrian played the best that he could in that situation because he really wanted to get aggressive. I did give him the opportunity to do so. It's just mathematically that's not the play. It can be very tough.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
you baiting son of a bitch. What happened in round 2?
So we played into Imperial Knights. Now, I played into Knights quite a bit. I am very familiar with them. I think a lot of us are. This is a Castellan Crusader Preceptor list with 1, 2, 3 Helverins and double Warglaive. Now, once again, this is priority assets. I'm going to get on my soapbox here real quick and say I already hate hot dog deployments, whether it be sweeping or Dawn of War. If you do the same matchup or the same layout all day 1, which it should not matter because I have to set up the table every freaking time, like it should be A, B, and C because of like the predominant dispositions I'm consistently playing into you. If I have planned for that, that means that I get to play on like my preferred board, and there are some armies that really struggle with that. So I kill knights really good. It's what I do. I have army-wide lethals. I have great Melta that can go to strength 11. I have access to rerolls. I have access to double oath. It just puts my opponent in a really sticky situation where if I manage to put both Indom bricks into 2 separate knights, I will kill 2 separate knights. And especially with the +1 to wound. The Thunderstrike was huge in this tournament, so the +1 to wound was good. It did what it needed to do. So my opponent didn't have a lot of choices until they had to start giving me real things because they have to go out there. The matchup is Vital Link, so they have to come out, do the action on the center to make sure that they're in a position where they keep doing the Vital Link. And unfortunately, turn 1, I didn't kill a Helverin, but I did damage the Helverin that was going to go towards the center enough that I had to take a Battle Shock at the start of the turn. He failed that Battle Shock, and that meant he had to bring out a big knight to start the Vital Link action, and that was my first opportunity to go after it, and I was able to kill it that following turn. So just off that little nuance of hurting a Helverin enough that I had to take a Battle Shock, and then now the big knight has to come out. If you want to do Vital Link, great, that's awesome for me, and then I can start killing big knights. Because all the other little knights were playing that board edge, trying to pin down my infantry on the sides, which makes sense, right? You got to play those several, maximize that line of sight. But if the Helverins are running on this side of the board, and your only one that was scoring was here in the middle, and it wanted to come up here and do it, and then suddenly it's battle shocked, right? Your big knights, which he had to stack up behind this terrain and behind his natural, it just puts him in a situation where it's a no win, and it got even worse because I battle shocked that one, which was fortunate for me. But yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, one of these days, Knights might get you, Phil, but we'll
they
see.
got me before. They got me in Utah.
Yeah. But not in 11th edition.
Yeah, not 11th edition, not yet. It will happen eventually.
Yeah. Those Helverins can't mess you up if they have to come so close. It's a
That's
lot
true.
harder to deal with those Terminators when you have hidden now.
Correct. And then also, unfortunately, those are only AP1 in this detachment. He has no way to boost AP.
Yeah.
So it means that, once again, AOC saves my bacon.
Okay, awesome. Well, rolling into round 3, the final game of day 1, what did you play into?
I played into Max Norns, like the maximum of Norns, which is Crusher and Talons, 2 big 10-man of Gene Stealers, the Red Terror, which is one of my favorite models in Gene Stealer Cults. I steal him all the time to play into my final day. We got Biovores, we got 2 Norn Assimilators, and we got 3 Norn Emissaries. Norn Assimilators obviously have the enhancement to make them pretty much emissaries on their own.
Yeah, five Norns. Well, you did get the win, so we do know you were able to chew them down. Did your Thunder Strike or Hammer Strike live the entire game to give you +1 to wound?
Pretty much up until the point that he had to send a Norn off his natural to chase down my Thunderstrike, which was fine. The game was over at that point. But it got 3 full rounds of shooting into Norns, giving me the +1 to wound, because believe it or not, that army, as you see it, it's only shooting realistically is the Norns themselves. If you stay outside of 20 inches of the Gene Stealers, they can never interact with you. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward from there. Once again, army-wide lethals is pretty good. Strength 11 is pretty great because Norns are only T11. And then when I can +1 to wound them, I'm wounding them on 3s then at that point. And I have Oath, and I have access to Strip Cover, and I have access to +1 to hit in a way that my opponent really can't interact with it. So that little Incursor squad with the character attached was huge this weekend. Like, being able to just keep it safe the whole time, just pop out, shoot, come back in, okay? And you just do that over and over again, especially in this matchup. Nobody wants to trade with Incursors. It's not how that works. And yeah, it was really interesting. But Justin was a great player. He actually won both games after me, so he ended up going 5-1. So even though I beat him, he still jumped me, and played this exceptionally well. I think there's a lot of people, as shown, because going 5-1 at a tournament like this is incredible, that can't deal with that many Norns, that much OC. It becomes very hard.
Yeah, it's very very good. There was a five Norn list as well at the Denver GT this weekend that also ended up going 5-1, ended up in 4th place, just losing in the finals to Orcs. It's a pretty good build. It does just I think it's probably the stat check. Like when we're talking about like toughness, I think just Orc Salad is probably the stat check. Really, the damage output is crazy, but the fact that there's just so many orcs to kill is probably like the most common stat check in the game. But when we're talking about like an actual tanky version of a list to play, 5 Norns has got to like take the cake for being the hardest one to deal with, I think.
Yeah, I think there's another list here that I think there's a 5 big nights list that goes 5-1 at this tournament that I think was really interesting, because one of the nights unfortunately is T13, which is like, holy shit, that's pretty high. And it did very well. It was dumpstering people, and I think that might be in the same vein, but it's even more lethal than the Norn list. The Norn list has to get within 18 to actually do something reasonable. Otherwise, it's standing there taunting everyone, it's got to spring the Gene Stealer cult trap of the Gene Stealers need a target, so they want you to get close enough to the Norns to have to deal with it, and then the Gene Stealers jump you. But yeah, definitely in the vein of very very skewed.
Yeah, and taking hold, that's a lot of OC.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're undefeated day 1. We're doing our best, and I play in Nick Carpenter. This is a very good player out of the Tundra Tactics group.
Phil left me. Oh God, help me, Jesus, help me, Tom.
Can you hear me, Lane?
I'm gonna go get some fucking coffee.
Lane, you there?
And he's back. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Because that was weird. Okay. So we're undefeated. We're going into day 2, and we play one of the Tundra Tactics boys, Nick Carpenter, an upcoming player, a very good player, running what I would say is one of the best versions of Space Marines now at the moment, which is Forge Fathers and Librarius, access to AP. It doesn't care about hit modifiers or cover because it's flamers galore. It has good access to combat with Adrax Agatone and his unit of boys. Overall, it's a very, very good list. It's running priority, which is one of the best dispositions out there. And yeah, so the way it looks is Adrax leading Blade Guard, a 6-man, a Captain of Gravis leading a 6-man of Aggressors, 2 Librarians leading 10-mans, 1 having the Temporal Corridor, which allows them to up down, which is really solid. It makes them like that much more mobile, which is really important for a list like this. And then Volcanistan, he was running solo, which is an interesting bit of tech. It was inside the Land Raider, and I really like that because he just needs to point at something, and that means he maintains his lone op. That means he maintains his hidden, which is really nice. And usually you do want to kill him, but you really need to kill the flamers more. So it puts you in an interesting conundrum. Then you got aggressors, a 6-man with power fists and flamers, obviously. Blade Guard, a little 5-man of devs. These were also inside the Land Raiders, so to go out, poke, and pick up some of these chunkier targets because they do have enough shots, and with the flip to a 6, they have a little bit of efficiency there to kill the big stuff. And then 2 10-mans of Infernus, 5-man, 2 Land Raider Redeemers, and double Scouts. So a very, very good list, a very durable list because you have the Land Raiders and you have those tools. Overall, I think it's a very good list, and Nick played it very well. So right off the bat, it was going to be a close game no matter what if we both played it clean. And there is a gap, and I'll pull it up here so y'all can see, of Purge the Foe into priority. And then day 2 is layout B. So this gap right here on the side is too big for a Land Raider. This is a 3-inch gap. Land Raider can't fit. This is obviously not Land Raider size, but this wall is supposed to go all the way to the edge on the layouts. Unfortunately, the terrain at LSO did not go all the way to the edge. I did not realize that. My Thunderstrike, which is super important in this matchup, is behind this wall here. And I'm trying to be very safe with it because I know, like, in my mind, I'm like, he can't get to it. He cannot disembark. To get a line on this doesn't matter. Well, he was. He was able to get a very, very sharp line because he was able to get pretty much to here because all of that wall was not gone. And he was able to drop very smartly a line of melted guns to draw a very sharp line into my Thunderstrike, picking it up, which messed up the whole plan because I'll show you right now what the actual plan is into this list, this matchup with, my opponent putting his Land Raider pretty much right here, which is, hey, I don't care if my opponent flips this. That's okay. I need my opponent to flip it with something real. So this was the majority of time was spent on this turn. So what we did was after my opponent came out and measured here, we did a bunch of stuff, which I think everything encompassing this game was perfect. Like Nick and I worked together to find the solution to this game, which was good because it meant that there were no bad feelings at all afterwards. So what we did is after Nick came out with this, what we did is I was like, okay, Nick, if I kill this Land Raider, what I want to do is put every single one of your guys on the board that's inside. And I want to make sure that either you have to come to the side here and I do get a line into this unit, or you have to touch this piece of terrain. Because if you have to touch this piece of terrain, that means I could shoot you from this side as well. So we did a lot of work on that because in the Forge Fathers detachment, there's a strat for after I shoot you, you get out and you shoot. Thankfully, it was just Blade Guard in here. But what it does prevent them from getting is the get out prevents them from being battle shocked, and it also prevents them from the emergency disembark, which is the 1-inch. It just allows them to get out normally wholly within 3, which meant he could pretty much like kind of stack here and hide how he wanted to prevent me from shooting into it with my plasma inceptors. So I dropped here with plasma inceptors, drawing the line because we verified that he would have to come down this side no matter what. So I would be able to shoot him with the plasma inceptors that dropped. And then I came down with the other Indom brick pretty much on this terrain because the Land Raider was touching to try to crack the Land Raider with the Indom brick and try to kill. I would, most likely with double oath and stuff like that, kill the Blade Guard with the Inceptors because I would anti-infantry 2 up with the Inceptors. I would ignore cover with the Indom brick and pick up both units and that would put me in a pretty decent position because the Inceptors then could not get touched. There was nothing reasonable without him having to put Flamers there. But what was going to end up happening is the Storm Speeder would come up here, give me the +1 to wound, and then block out where those Flamers could come down, preventing them from getting into it, meaning I could pick them up again and do the work they need to do. But because the Storm Speeder died, it meant that I didn't get the +1. I still had to try to make the play work, but none of my Melta is wounded, which was disappointing. No lethals or anything like that, which meant that the Land Raider lived, and then I had to put my whole Inceptor squad into it, which did end up killing it, but that meant the Blade Guard were still alive. So that play was very good from Nick's part, and it put me in a position where I didn't have the lethality here to pick up everything I needed to pick up.
Gotcha. Yeah, that does sound like a very, very pivotal moment in a game for sure. But it's always good to hear when people are playing the game as they're supposed to, doing
Yeah.
a ton of pre-measuring. Hey, if I do this, where will you be? And and things like that. That's always good to see. It might feel like you're taking up some of the time on the clock, but a lot of the time at this level, when players are really looking to be like, well, this is my go turn or this is my big play, it's fine if stuff takes a while because you want to get it right because the game is generally decided on what's going to happen the rest of the game after that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a hugely pivotal turn. Nick is a great opponent. And the worst thing, and we talked about it throughout the game, like, there can't be a feels bad at this level, I don't believe. If two good players are going in with the right intent, there should never be a point where something happens where it's beyond the scope of what you expected, especially if you talk about it. So, yeah, being able to match everything out, being able to mark everything out is super important. Yeah, but Nick was a great opponent. He played the list incredibly well and well deserving of the win because I just couldn't hit my go turn like I wanted to, like I did in a lot of the other games.
Damn, hell of a close game. What was your next game like, Phil? How was round 5?
Well, I played one of the best players in the country after that. I played Kit Smith. Those individuals may remember that Kit, and I told him this at the tournament. I was like, Kit was one of my first experiences in competitive 40K, like at that level, because I think he's ranked number 20 in the world right now on StatCheck, maybe 50 around there. Very, very good player. Is in the Team USA setup, helps practice, does all that stuff. And he played me at Challengers Cup and really pushed my shit in. I was running Death Guard and he was running Necrom Monolith spam with all the up down, and my Death Guard were poor, just running around trying to chase these things down, and I could not kill them, believe it or not. So that was like what inspired the journey. And I told him that I was like, look, man, like I haven't had someone beat me like that bad up to that point, and then seeing that the tiers to the game really inspired me to work pretty hard to try to become a better player. So Kit was the reason for that to happening. He and I had a great game because we both had one loss at that point. So
A little less
yeah,
pressure.
a little less pressure. It is what it is at that point. Obviously, I wanted the win in a Kit for the revenge, but I will get him eventually. But this was a much closer game overall, and definitely interesting in the sense that this is the Team USA Chaos Demons list. The models that Kit is using are the models that will be traveling overseas to Belgium to play Slaanesh Demons for Brian Doherty. So like this is the list. They're gathering data now at this point, obviously getting ready for WTC, and we wish them all the best because I would love to see Team USA come home with the dub, but it's going to be tough. So this list is very interesting because last time we saw Legions of Excess, they were dominating the meta to the point that people were screaming out in pain or in excitement about how good this list was. But now they're back. So it's Legions of Excess and Warptide. You got a Contorted Epitome and Demonettes, Double Keepers, which in this meta have gotten so much better because they're built in -1 to hit. Because if they have -1 to hit and benefits of cover, that makes them very, very good. It means they're so durable. It means that if you don't have redundancy in your modifier like package, you could very easily just always be -1 to hit against them, which is tough. Then you got the Mask, which is nice. It's just a little tech piece. Torment Bringer, 2 solo 10-man demonettes with the Baneforge upgrades, which gives them the +1 strength. Yep. Which is really important. And then 2 solo 10-man demonettes and a Beast of Nurgle. And then the beef of this list, which is 3x6 Fiends. This list is obviously tuned to the max. Team USA and there's a couple other teams that are taking iterations of this list would not be taking this if this was not like the best version of what they could take of their top 8 armies in a team setup. So for those that are seeing this list for the first time, better get used to it because you're going to see it again. I'm very confident that there are some people that previously run Legions of Excess and now realize that this is now good and will start to take this again. What does this list do well? 1, Beast of Nurgle is freaking annoying. And if this is once again priority assets, because that is one of the best dispositions. Priority assets, you put out a Beast of Nurgle and starts doing Vital Link. Well, what do you have that can kill a Beast of Nurgle? Genuinely, you have to do it in pretty much one activation. And is that one thing something you're willing to lose because the Slaanesh army, just like me, is looking to like dogpile and push differential? Not many things want to do that. I'm relying on land speeders potentially to try to come up and ping the Beast of Nurgle, and those are not consistent enough. Like if I don't slip both Meltas through, I'm probably not killing it, and I have to, obviously give them those saves. It's a very interesting list. I really, really like it. The Demonettes were actually able to, on their own, pick up both land speeders, which was a huge turning point in the game because they have all those devs and access to rerolls. It means that all those 6s, each one got like 5 or 6 devs through, and it's like, okay, well now I failed 3 saves. Now they're all 1 damage and still kills the land speeder. And because he was able to do that, he was able to maintain his screens really effectively, preventing me from going into him with something real. I had one opportunity, and I looking back, I probably should have taken it. And Kit and I talked about it after the game because once again, we were on Search and Destroy because I'm just gonna put this out now. The setup needs to vary. Just do what GW recommends, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, of ABC, ABC. I genuinely believe that is the best way to run a tournament in terms of giving you disparity because I played pretty much the 2 same layouts all weekend. I either played Dawn of War or Sweeping, or I played Search. And it's like, okay, fine, I guess, but that doesn't give enough disparity, and I already hate Dawn of War as is. Now you're forcing me to play it 3 times in a day. Like, I don't like that. I don't enjoy that. So, I'll show you right now. I had one opportunity where Kit comes out with a keeper. He's not on the train, which is important in this scenario. And he just has a little sword poking out here to draw a line of sight to my combi weapon lieutenant to try to pick him up, which he did with the keeper, which I had a chance to live, but I unfortunately did not. But just a little sword poking out. That was my one opportunity to kind of not all in, but like kill a keeper. Really, I should have dropped an Indomitor brick there, and I had to be really, really tricky with it. I had to like run them down this side of the wall and pretty much down this edge to draw a line because this is even farther than it should be. It's like the base here. It's just like a little bit of the sword. So I should have done drop here, and then try to punish this keeper. And I really have to kill it in that moment to make sure that I've done everything I can and this keeper dies. Because then, yes, things will dogpile the Indomitor brick. That's fine. But that at least gets the game started. I didn't have to realistically do that in any of my other games because a lot of my other opponents were very aggressive to me. Kit was playing correctly, very reserved, because he knew the longer he was able to maintain resources in the priority versus purge matchup, that he would just win out on points because I would not get the kill more that I desperately needed into him. And this Kit's list is very good at dealing with my elite stuff. The Fiends have devs, they have 2 damage, they're very, very fast. Demonettes also solid, and then they have the strat for those that have put the PTSD and it's not real, it's in the back of your head. They still have the strat that allows them to ablative wounds to Demonettes or any other target, so they're very easily can flip things back. So he was able to stage with like Fiends and Demonettes here, even though with hidden, and even though I could shoot him, it didn't matter because he had them trailed out enough where the Demonettes on his home, he was just able to suck the wounds back and then kill multiples in this unit, and then the unit would regen. So a very, very interesting list. I can't wait to see how it does at WTC. Brian Doherty is a fantastic player, so not to say that Kit isn't. He is also very, very good at 40K, but this list obviously has the tools to deal with a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems so spicy, and it's so hard to feel like you're committing correctly into the right stuff because it is just such a when played correctly, it's so hard to have to try to chew through all the ablative wounds that they can do with the damage transfer, or hitting those keepers with the -1 to hit and -1 ballistic skill. If you can't ignore cover, most armies hit on fives in that case. It's a tough army, and I think since we've seen so many more people like just transferring to less melee style armies for like fast gun good kind of play styles, those matchups where there's no melee threat, I feel like it just trucks people. And I think if they can get that list into non-combat armies as well throughout WTC, it's going to put up some big scores.
Yeah, yeah, yep, 100%. I agree. It completely makes sense to me why, and seeing it in person, played by an incredible player being Kit, I always appreciate those games because, Lane and I have talked about it before. Like, that's how you get better. You play good players with good lists, and it makes you think about the game differently. So even that game was like, I felt pretty good going into that game, and there's just that one instance there of like probably needing to go after that keeper pretty aggressively and trading an Indomitor brick for it was my opportunity to have a chance. Playing it slower there was the wrong line. So, we make mistakes. It's okay. We press on, move on. Okay.
Okay, pressing on into round 6, playing into some E.
Yep. Another good army and another Tundra Tactics player. So this is 3 Tundra Tactics players in a row. Apparently, they all wanted the smoke. They all wanted to play against me. I think that's perfectly fair. Played into a great EC player being Micah, and I will give him a shout out. I did promise. He has a rules recommendation for Games Workshop that I would love to get Elaine's take on as someone who TOs and stuff like that. He genuinely believes, and I actually really like this idea, that the go to ground rule shouldn't be free. It should be an action. And you can only do it on dense terrain. So you go onto dense terrain, you don't shoot, you don't do anything else. You just get go to ground, but you have to do an action to do it. Otherwise, you just have the hidden rule.
Gotcha. I do think that is very interesting. I think that might be a little much for some people to like comprehend, like to have to put on their plate to start with for a little while. Like if people got used to it, I think it would be a cool addition to the rule. And I think that the thing I like about that is most things can't advance in action. There's some units that can do that, but
Yeah.
that would make it harder for people to just be like, I run up the board and then you still can't deal with me. I think it would make that whole interaction a little more interesting as well, because 12-inch hidden lone op equivalent is brutal, especially for more elite armies. Like when
Yeah.
we're talking about custodes or anything that has like really elite 3 and or 5 like man units, they're so easy to put in those spots that having 12-inch lone up is brutal to try to dig them out. And yeah, I think that would be an interesting change. I think there's a lot of other things that will get addressed or need to get addressed first, but I won't say that I'm against that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Obviously, the way talking to Micah about it is like the way I saw it is a unit is most likely who wants go to ground is not going to be shooting, right? Because they want to maintain hidden. So doing the action is not like the end of the world for a unit who's already trying to do that. What it does prevent is a unit coming up and doing an action, let's say priority assets, vital link, of going up, touching something, vital linking it, and being like, hey, I still have 12-inch hidden, go to ground, versus having 15. I think that little interaction of like having to choose between doing the vital link or whatever action you're trying to do versus having go to ground, I think that's very, very interesting. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a very unique way to address go to ground. It still allows you to keep it. It just means that like there are some potential downsides, which I think is solid. So Micah, I like it.
I'm
I'll,
thinking of
I'll
the
hit up
flip
GW.
side. I'm thinking of
What's
the
that?
flip side. What if maybe the easier ways, if you do an action, it counts as having shot, so you can no longer get hidden.
Well, I mean that solves this. That's the same thing, right? Like,
It's the same but different, right? Because then anybody who is trading a resource to go do something just flat cannot get either. You do not get hidden at all. It's the same as having shot. If you shot, you don't get hidden base. If you do an action, you count as having shot. So that would be my suggestion. A little cleaner, a little less. I have to do actions. I have to and stuff like that. But if you do an action, Because if you think it logically, right, like, oh, we're out doing something in the open, right? You're not hidden. You're out doing something actively. So
Yeah.
we're getting a little
Yeah.
bit of a tangent, but anyway, GW, one or the other, we want to see it. You heard it here first. Going into Micah's list though, with EC playing Carnival and Elegant Brutes playing Taken Hold, Lucius the Eternal with a unit of Flawless Blades, a Lord Exultant with a unit of Infractors, a big surprise here, another Lord Exultant with a unit of Infractors. Never see those.
Yeah.
A Keeper of Secrets, still good, even not in Chaos Demons. Same reason. And what do you know? More Demonettes. We got 1, 2, 3 whole units of Demonettes, a Chaos Rhino, 2 Defilers, and then a unit of 3 Fiends. That is a lot of demons, and that is a lot of just. For one, it's a lot of things that can benefit from the hidden and gone to ground,
Yeah.
as we were just talking about. So you're going to have to get very, very close to deal with these units that are, as I was just talking about, those Lord Exultants, once they're out of the Rhino and stuff, it's not that hard to give them gone to ground on a lot of these terrain pieces to be just
Correct.
enough behind a wall. So you have to get close. And EC loves it when you have to get close.
It is very true. So, yeah, it was definitely an interesting game. It was the final game of the weekend. Micah and I were both on the downward turn, having lost our, going undefeated day one and then losing out was a little tough for both of us. But obviously, we're playing against good opponents, so it is what it is. And I'll show you the two things that I think made the biggest difference in this matchup overall. So, unfortunately, this one is supposed to be split now. I don't think they've updated this yet, but it's not the end of the world. It's still fine. So these are now supposed to be split for Purge and to Take and Hold, but really it came down to the two following moments. So this is obviously my natural. Micah was fast enough that he could put all his 5 mana of Infractors with character along this edge, like all the way tight up against the board, against the profile, not touching, trying to make sure that they made this line, like this line here, as tight as possible to actually shoot into the Infractor unit, which completely made sense. They're in a great staging position to go after my objective, which is, completely fair. And it just provides me so many issues. What unfortunately I was able to do and made a big difference in this game was I was able to drop the Talon Strike unit of plasmas down, see this one guy that was outside, and put a full plasma Inceptor unit, my Talon Strikes, into it, picking the full unit up. And then I was able to charge into the Flawless Blade unit that was on the other side of this wall and killing, I think, 1 or 2 Flawless Blades on the charge, because on the turn that the Talon Strikes come down, not only do they get +1 AP, they also get Lance. So they're able to charge in and do a bunch of damage, killing a couple Flawless Blades, making that unit a lot less efficient and putting the Talon Strikes kind of in my opponent's facing. Like, you have to deal with these. And that's unfortunately something I just seen from Kit of like, hey, I may have to trade one of these bricks to get this process started. So I kind of implemented that here of going after 2 really, really important units, one that was pressuring my natural and one that was looking to, leapfrog into my deployment zone.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitively a great trade. Those Lord Exultant bricks, not even bricks, little tiny squads. I don't know. Have you rolled how much damage do they do into a unit of Indomitors if given the chance?
They'll kill the whole thing.
Yeah, so worth it, 100%.
They've scared the shit out of me. I was like, if I get the opportunity, I will trade almost anything to kill one of those, because at least through a Defiler, I might live.
Yeah.
Like, it's -1 AP. Yes, it's sustained 5s and 6s. Yes, it's all flat 3 damage, but it's only 1 AP. I can AOC that. I can't let the Keeper touch me either, because she's all 3 damage and she's like -3. So she'll go in and she'll rack up and she'll pick the whole squad up. So it's like, I have to kill the Infractors. I have to kill the Keeper. I just have to live with getting shot by a Defiler. It's gonna happen at one point. I just gotta be okay with it.
What a world you live in, where the Defiler is the least scary thing in your EC army. What are we doing? Like, that's wild.
I don't know.
Hell yeah. Any other key things to that game, specifically dealing with an army that's super, super fast that can kind of run you down if you are, just a little bit too close as you try to drop in these specific lines of sight?
Yeah, I would say because it's double Defiler, Mikey didn't have as many trading pieces. Like, he had a little 3 mana Fiends and the Demonettes, which are obviously very, very solid. But the demonettes are actually pretty important for giving the defilers their their crits and sustains and all that stuff. So they need to be around the defilers to give them those benefits within 6 inches specifically. So the demonettes weren't being played as aggressively as they were in Kit's list as they were in Micah's list. Micah's list was a lot less aggressive with those demonettes. So, for example, he had to be actually aggressive with the defilers. So he brought his defiler up, his first one, and the keeper up off the profile to try to stage to go after everything in my home and to pick up a storm speeder. So his defiler came up, was able to kill a storm speeder, specifically the strip cover one, which is important in this scenario. And all that meant is, my hammer strike was able to come down and then draw this line because he was touching this profile and get the +1 to wound here. And this was like my quote unquote all in turn because I had already given up my talon strikes. I was okay with that. That was fine. I was able to drop both Indomitor bricks. I lost a couple in Overwatch, and I was able to +1 to wound, +1 to hits the Defiler, and put a full Indom brick into the Keeper with a Land Speeder. I was able to pick her up as well on the same turn. And at that point, the game was pretty much over because I traded a Lord Exultant brick for nothing. I was able to pick up both of these for pretty much a Storm Speeder, and my kills were rolling. And yes, the Defiler still hurt, but at the end of the day, I still had enough to play the game, which was really important.
Yeah, that's a lot of major damage output gone with a keeper, a Lord Exultant, and a Defiler down. Feels pretty good. And yeah, that I think that's one of the hardest parts probably as a carnival player is really making sure you're getting the utility out of those demonettes and they don't just feel like a shadow that just has to kind of tag along to be giving these buffs.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very it takes some games and some reps to really get the most out of a unit like that, and realizing when it's like crit fives just aren't worth it. I need the piece to go do something.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's because the defilers are so expensive and the keeper is expensive. Like that's what you're relying on. So there's some armies that can trade well enough that'll force you to actually use the defiler and the keepers. That it just becomes very difficult.
Fair enough. All right. Well, any insights looking back at your list? We talked about some of the changes I am probably going to be making. Anything you would change, or do you feel like your Death Watch list did what it needed to?
That's I'll be honest, I think this is one of the purest forms of Death Watch. I really like this list. I'm very high on them right now. I think, my mistake into Nick turned the game into what could have been very or should have been very winnable into, hey, I missed on the turn and needed to go in because I think if that doesn't happen, I think I win that game pretty consistently. Into Kit, that game is a lot tougher. Based on just skill alone, I might win 2 of those games out of 10, mainly because I don't have the trading pieces to go into them. And that's the thing that stands out to me of like, hey, the land speeders are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Like 105 points, they're great. The problem is it doesn't really kill demonettes. Like a land speeder won't kill a squad of demonettes. It will not happen, which means the demonettes are still alive. They're going to regen. They're going to be in a great spot. And I'm constantly playing this game of like measuring out the keepers and the fiends and being like, hey, I either have to find my opportunity to go after a keeper or like I'm just going to be locked out of this game. So I'm going to have to put some thought into it what's going to solve that problem. Maybe it's downsizing the talon strikes to only one, but I really don't love that because if we talk about the one matchup that I wanted to play that I didn't get to play, which was Orcs, the talon strike with the assault bolters is so good. Sustain 2, I can make them hit on 2s. I'm gonna fish for as many 6s as possible. And then I have anti-infantry 2 up, so I'm gonna try to best case scenario like reroll because I have twin linked and just as many saves as possible. And that talon strike kill team can do that with the charge on top of that of actually getting a decent amount of attacks at +1 AP and lance. So like that talon strike kill team is super important for what I'm trying to do. Having a captain, it made me feel less guilty about my one captain in Gravis. Because if I lost my captain in Gravis, my CP efficiency is gone. I really liked having the second one because it meant that I could be a lot more aggressive with my units that I picked up. You just got to be cognizant. I use tokens on it. So when I use one captain, I pick up both captains, free CP. So that way I can go after multiple units in a turn. Or I'm not locked into always picking up the captain brick, which is really important, right? Like, maybe I pick up the Talon Strike brick now and I still have my captain alive that I can keep safe and keep safe for the later game. I got a lot of shit for still taking a lieutenant with combi. People were like, Phil, you're still paying for a combi weapon lieutenant? I was like, yeah, he's still insane. He still has a flat six reactive. He still has lone op. He still has all the things that you want a scout like that to do. And for those that don't know, I cannot take scouts in Deathwatch. They're one of the restricted units that I can't take. There's a few others that I cannot take in Deathwatch. So Lieutenant with Combi is kind of like my infiltrate piece. Now, the tech that I really want, if Equatorial Horde is still a thing, I would really like a unit of infiltrators, and I would really like a redeploy. Like, I think for me personally, both of those things would be very nice to have. I would also like double incursors versus, don't get me wrong, this is a nice little combo if I don't have the points, because I don't think I lost the incursors all tournament, except for maybe once into the NIDS player, which, was very nice overall. And just in terms of keeping them alive. Yeah, but to do that, I would have to get rid of something. Maybe it's the plasma, but like, I love the flat 3 damage. It's not the Thunderstrike. I need, as shown, my first 3 rounds were playing into like bigger stuff. Or yeah, like I needed it into Defilers. I needed it to Knights. I needed it into Tyranids. The Hammer Strike will never leave my list right now. Like, I have to have the strip cover. The double land speeders are fantastic. I don't know. It feels really, really, really good. The only points to play around with is probably the Talon Strike unit, and that just like I'm gonna have to test it because it's gonna change a few things, but I think that's the one thing I'm gonna have to adjust.
Gotcha.
That's just me like trying to grab and reach for something. I think this list is very good.
Yeah, no, like, oh man, I gotta change something. It's just like,
No, no, no.
I would try this instead.
Correct.
Maybe it's better. Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. A heck of a run. A nice run at a very, very large and very competitive tournament. That is a really tough day too, for sure. You got Tundra'd hard the entire day. But yeah, big shout out to Tundra Tactics. Always glad to play into them, I'm sure. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about from that tournament from the weekend? Or yeah,
11th edition is in full swing. Lessons learned. I'll just give you these right now. Priority assets you need to be prepared for. Right, that is the number one mission that everyone is playing because it has good matchups into almost everything, which is nice. It means that you're that much more efficient playing the game in a singles environment. As a purge player in this tournament, yes, you do need to look for those all-ins specifically into priority, but you have to have ways to manipulate tempo in a game, and whether it be to slow it down or to increase the tempo. And that's, I think, with any army, you need to be able to do those things. And each army does those things differently. And when I say tempo, like the things that I would say of increasing tempo would be like when I drop my Talon Strike unit and went after what I would say is 2 units combined that would cost less than my Talon Strike unit. But because I put them in such an aggressive position, like I was able to increase the tempo of that game. And it was a quote unquote down trade, but it was a huge win for me, successful like win for me in the position of the game because I was able to remove a unit that was threatening my natural, and I was also able to tie up, a really important combat piece going forward. So like that was the way I increased tempo, and that's the way I consistently look for increased tempo. The units that slow down tempo are combi weapon lieutenants and land speeders because they force your opponent to commit into something that they don't necessarily want to because they know an Indomitor brick and a Talon Strike brick are right behind them. And it's like, okay, well, do you want to go after this because it just reactive moved back behind the wall, and now you actually have to come out, or are you just willing to keep getting peppered by whatever it is that I got?
yeah, I think that's totally fair. I personally am excited to keep getting some more games of 11th in. Gonna make some changes and stuff, but in general, my biggest takeaway from this weekend is I am more willing to just ditch things for CP. CP I have found is just so important. Playing at least the detachment I was playing, I really wanted to spend at least 1, if not 2, per turn, and so you just don't really have a bank for any of the like utility things that kind of come up. So I think that was my biggest takeaway is just being more ready to just be like, you know what? I'm only going to score a couple on that anyway. I would rather have the CP. I think that's been one of the things people have gotten too comfortable with because you can bank so many that they aren't ditching them. And it's just so easy to run low on CP, particularly with armies that rely on strats to truly function. So I think that was my biggest takeaway in terms of like something I've learned as just a general game sense. Definitely going to be ditching some secondaries because there were some I wasn't going to easily score anyway, or I would have been holding on to for a long time. And it's like I'd just be so much better off to have the CP. So yeah, that is all for our GT recap this week. I'm probably gonna have some more. Phil, when is your next event? You got anything lined up here soon?
Yes, we have a tournament August 22nd. That's going to be a teams tournament that Lane and I will be playing at. Not on the same team. We'll be adversaries, but he's going to come down to Albuquerque and visit New Mexico. And there's a great community down here, and it's going to be little 5-man teams, which will be really, really fun. And then guess what? It's Challenger Cup time, baby. We're getting ready for that. So the teams are formed. We are going through comps. I was, WTC list came out, and I've been listening to videos as I was traveling back from Dallas and just going through all the lists that are on there and seeing what the players representing their countries are running, and that has been very, very interesting. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we got to do a little bit of singles, but we are fully going back into teams drive now. 2 teams tournaments in the next month, basically. So lots of teams prep for us. But we are looking forward to doing some more singles and stuff once fall rolls around and we've made it through the big team summer. But yeah. If you have not liked or subscribed, please do so. Join us in the Discord if you want to chat about some more 40K. And as always, do not forget that victory isn't given, it is forged, and is forged right here at Mastercrafted. We will see you all next time.
Yep.